What's cracking, guys? Omaha Steak Sauce here, back with another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about why you're not weak, your technique just sucks. So, in all seriousness, in today's video, we're going to be talking about things that you can do to improve your technique, because one thing that I kind of hear pretty frequently is, oh my god, that minor change made so much difference in how I was able to lift a weight, or that felt so much lighter when I did it this way. And that's normal. That's to be expected. When you're learning how to lift, when you're learning how to train, learning how to exercise, things get easier when you do them properly. So, in my opinion, it's kind of a cop-out to say, oh, I just don't think I'm strong enough for it yet. Because if your form is good, if all that's really lacking is the confidence and maybe some like underlying competence to help you feel confident into your training, then that's something that should be addressed as well as anything else, whether like the same way that you would address recovery, the same way you would address someone's goals. Their mental readiness for certain exercises should be addressed as well. And one thing I want to reiterate for everyone who's watching this video is you are not weak. You might be not as strong as you could be just because in the grand scheme of things you haven't trained for like years on end. So in that sense, sure, you're weak because you just haven't had enough time invested into the sport. But when it comes to certain scenarios, certain conditions, generally speaking, it's not because you lack the physical ability, it's because you prevent yourself from showing that physical ability to lift the weight because you believe yourself to be weak. But all that's really doing, it's covering up the underlying issue, which is usually technique and confidence, or competence and confidence, and how those two feed into one another. So we're going to be discussing that today in today's video. So let's get started. So one thing you need to understand is that heavy things feel heavy because they're heavy. It doesn't, like, one thing that I always tell my clients or my people who I'm coaching is that when you get stronger, it's not that heavy things become lighter. It's more so that you get better at lifting heavier things. So that's something that you need to really understand about training. Heavy things are still going to be heavy. Just because you get stronger doesn't mean you can, like, now you can just like toss around the weight. Like, just because I can bench press 225 for 18 plus reps, that doesn't mean I can just like, you know, like dance around with it while I'm on the bench and it's not gonna hurt me. It's still gonna fucking hurt me. Or just because I can deadlift close over 500 pounds, it doesn't mean that with 315, if I just mess around with it, I'm going to be, you know, hunky-dory and it's not gonna like fuck my spine up, you know? So that's why heavy things are always going to be heavy. It's just you need to be responsible, you need to be strong, and you need to work on that. So another reason why heavy things feel heavy is because you lose focus on form and technique because you're either intimidated or excited by the weight you're lifting. And if you are a fan of Bruce Lee, you have more than likely seen Enter the Dragon a bunch of times, and not just for the titty scene, but also for the fighting, and also for Bruce Lee's philosophy, because he kind of had to balance his writing his philosophy and writing a story. But who gives a fuck? It's Bruce Lee. It's a great ass movie. Watch it if you haven't already. And in it he says you need to have emotional content behind what you do, not anger. So he was teaching a pupil how to like kind of like get better at fighting, and he said emotional content, but the guy just strikes back with anger, and then he reprimands him for that. Same thing with lifting. You shouldn't always rely on this elevated emotional state. You should be kind of like this this certain calmness to you, but it's not like, you know, lazy. It's still firm. So you need to have focus and intention behind what you're doing, but it can't just be like, you can't let excitement or intimidation, because those things will start to introduce doubt. They'll start to introduce sloppiness, and that's what you don't want. Another thing that you do like that makes things feel heavier is the fact that you don't treat light weights as if they're heavy, and that is not ideal. Like, you want to treat light weights as if they're heavy, because that is really important. So sorry answering your message, but you do want to treat light weights as if they're heavy. You want to treat everything the same exact way. You want to treat an empty barbell the exact same as your 1 rep max. If you lack the ability to make that distinction in your training, if you lack that ability to do that in your own mind, it's not going to go all that well for you, because you're going to get to your 1 rep max, get to a heavy weight, and you're going to be severely underprepared because everything you've done to that point was sloppy, it was like without proper intent, and then when you get to that weight you think it's just going to kick in. No, you practice, like you do not fall, you do not rise to the level of your expectations, you fall to the level of your practice. So treat light weights like they are heavy. And like I mentioned at the very start of this slide, things are heavy. Like things, like just because something is heavy doesn't mean you're weak. Heavy things are heavy things. So always remember that. Don't take it personal when something is just heavy, you know? Like it's kind of interesting when people will look at a heavy weight and be upset that they can't lift it. But I'm just like, dude, it's heavy. What do you expect? You're Superman? No, you train up to these things. So let's talk about why technique matters. We can make a whole video about this, and maybe in the future I will. But just as a kind of short overview, technique matters because proper technique allows you to express your strength the best. And also, it tends to allow you to accumulate the most amount of volume, the most amount of tonnage, and that is what builds you strength and size. So when it comes to your technique, I want you to think about, you know, hitting a rep, doing a rep properly, as if you were trying to hit a target in archery. First, you have to have an aim. Like, you need to have a standard of performance. Like, did you complete the rep? Was the rep as smooth as it could be? Were you able to use all your strength? Did you struggle unnecessarily? Like, these are things you have to assess, and you need to kind of create a standard of performance, and that is now your aim for every single rep. Next, when it comes to actually hitting that rep, hitting your rep goal, whatever it is you have to do for that set, you can't just focus on the target. Looking at the target is not enough. You have to pay attention to every single step along the way. If you were to do it this way, hitting the target is a matter of course, meaning you want to kind of set it up in as simple as possible as a cause and effect relationship. If I do these things right, whatever, like let's say it's your deadlift and you have like 5 specific steps and you just knock them out. If you do all 5 of those steps right, you don't throw in any unnecessary steps, you know for a fact the weight is going to come up. It's going to come up with good rep quality, good form, and you're going to be a very happy camper, and you're going to make progress over time. You want to focus on the quality of each cause. So if you're focusing on your bench press, is your back, is your upper back tight? Do you have a sufficient arch? Are your feet planted into the ground? Like, are you tucking your elbows in? Like, these are things you need to refine into your own process. Like, whatever cues you need to make for your own process to be as standardized as possible so that you have this cause and effect relationship in your lifting, in your technique. That is what you're looking for. That is what you need. It's commonly said that practice makes perfect, but I think it's more accurate to say perfect practice makes perfect. So you need to make sure everything that you do is done with this level of intention and focus. So really keep that in mind. And one thing that you can do, or some things that you can do to easily implement this, are take your warm-up seriously. The warm-up isn't just a warm-up. It's not just to get your body temperature. It's not just to activate the muscles you're about to use. It's to also mentally prepare yourself for the work that you're about to do. Like, your mind needs to be warmed up just as well. Strength is neurological, meaning that you need to use your brain. Like, you need to use, you need to have a standardized thought processes. You need to have awareness of your body. And this is the best time to practice technique, because light weights aren't really, like, you can, like, you can make adjustments with lightweight very easily with no downsides. If you have 225 on your bench press and you load it up and you try to make adjustments into your form right then and there, the feedback that you're going to get might not be the best. You're going to be in a very unsafe position to do these kinds of things, and then that's not going to go well for you. Take care of that with the lighter weights, where the injury cost is very, very low. Like, I mean, like, the chance of injury is very, very low, and go from there. Other things that you can do is your workout split. If there is a lift that you really, really suck at, you can practice it more just by changing how you run your routine. If you are running an upper lower, you are getting 2 times per week practice with a certain movement pattern. If you're doing a push-pull leg, same thing. If you do a push-pull, that will range between 2 times a week practice, 3 times a week practice, because you might do, like, let's say 3 push days, 2 pull days, or 3 pull days, 2 push days. If you do full body, you can do essentially one compound movement or 2 compound movements per full body day, and then you can kind of decide what full body movements you're going to implement throughout the week and then go through from there. More frequent practice is a very valid way of getting better at certain movements, because you just like the same way you would practice an instrument. The more you practice, the more time you spend practicing, the better you get. Same thing applies to training. The only thing is, you have to understand that when you're training technique, it's not the same thing as training a muscle, and it's not the same thing as building strength. It's investing into technique so that way muscle size and strength can be improved down the line. Meaning, loading has to be undulated if you were to do this. On your heavy days, cool. Like, you want to be mindful during your heavy days because you need to build your size, you need to build your strength. But then you have a light day where you're using no more than 50% of your max, or maybe no more than 60, and just doing some really nice light work, high quality technique work. And then another moderate day to, you know, get more volume, get more touches on the bar, get more bodybuilding, or you can just do more light practice as needed depending on your goals. And here's the last thing. This is something that has helped me the most as far as my lifting career has gone, and that's just watching videos in my free time. Like, if you watch shows when you eat dinner or lunch or whatever, like, you can watch someone lift weights, and there's some people who do this better than others. Me personally, I always really like the lifting tutorials by, let's say, Alan Thrall, Brian Alsrew. I think there was a good couple on Omar Isof's channel as well. So I would really trust them as far as like their form videos go. I think Calisthenics Movement has a good squat video. There's a lot of good form videos out there in the world. Like 2016 was when like form videos were like the norm, so you can definitely dig up a lot from then. And one thing you'll notice, even if you don't like use everything that they do in the video, sometimes in each video there's one cue that you can implement into your own training that's going to make a world of difference for you, and that is useful. Like, these minor cues can go a long way. So that is my recommendations as far as improving your technique, because like I said, you are not weak, your technique just sucks. Work on it. Like, mine sucks. Like, the thing is, like, technique is one of those things that you work on for the rest of your life, because you change, you get bigger, you get stronger. Things aren't the same anymore, like, as things progress. You have one foot in things you know and one foot out in where you don't, because you're constantly moving forward, you know, you're taking those steps. And that's why it's always important to maintain ways that you can practice technique as you progress, as you get stronger, as you get better. These are things you need to be mindful of. These are things you need to be aware of. These are things that are going to carry you very, very far into your lifting career. That's it for this video. My name is Karel Saking, standstrength.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.